Hi, I'm Lisa, a 30-year-old office worker. My husband George, who is 32, and I were introduced by a mutual friend, and we've been happily married for 3 years. Growing up as an only child, my life was quite sheltered. I attended a public school until middle school, after which I transferred to an all-girls private school, where I continued my education through college. The unique environment of an all-girls school helped me build deep friendships, although I wasn't particularly focused on dating in my early 20s. I had a few casual relationships, but I never met anyone I could see myself marrying. As I approached my 30s, my parents, especially my dad, started to feel a sense of urgency for me to settle down. He began encouraging me to explore matchmaking websites, which is how I eventually met George. After a few meetings, he opened up about his feelings for me. George is a kind-hearted man who holds a deep respect for his parents, values that resonated with me, and they ultimately led to our decision to marry. Our wedding came together quickly, thanks to the enthusiastic support of our friends and family. However, married life has not been without its challenges. Shortly after our wedding, George's father fell ill and passed away. In the aftermath, George devoted a lot of his time to caring for his mother. While I understand and respect his dedication, it sometimes feels as if his mother takes precedence in his life, which can be frustrating. Nonetheless, I've learned to accept and adapt to the complexities of our marriage. Recently, I've found joy in participating in sweepstakes, winning small items like makeup and snacks. My biggest triumph came when I won a pair of tickets to Florida, my first major prize. At the time, George was traveling with his mother, so I decided to gift this wonderful opportunity to my parents. I rushed to their house, eager to surprise them with the news. My mother was thrilled, reminiscing about how long it had been since their last trip abroad. However, my dad was less enthusiastic. "I've got work commitments, Lisa," he explained. Even though he had some paid leave available, he stressed that this was a busy season for our industry, and as department head, taking time off wasn't easy. Then my mom suggested, "Lisa, if you can manage to get leave, why don't you and I go instead?" I thought it over and agreed. It was too great an opportunity to pass up. Since my dad couldn't join us, I spoke with my boss about taking some time off. Fortunately, the workload was light and my boss approved my leave without any issues. After work, I stopped by a bookstore near the station to pick up a travel guide for Florida, bubbling with excitement about our upcoming trip. As I approached our house, I noticed the lights were on. George must have come home early. I thought I'd better get dinner ready. However, as I walked in, instead of finding George's shoes by the door, I spotted a pair of women's shoes that I recognized all too well, my mother-in-law's. "Lisa, what's the meaning of leaving the house empty at this hour?" she scolded as I entered. "Oh, I didn't realize you were here," I replied, a bit taken aback. "It doesn't matter if I'm here or not. It's time for George to be home, and you should be preparing dinner for him," she lectured. Living nearby and having a spare key courtesy of George, she often dropped by unannounced, which I found challenging. Since her husband had passed away, I understood that she might feel lonely, but her surprise visits and sense of entitlement were difficult to manage. Moreover, her old-fashioned views on a wife's role and disapproval of my job made every interaction feel critical, leaving me uncomfortable in her presence. "Why the long face? Why the detour instead of coming straight home?" she continued, scrutinizing me. "You're such a useless wife," she added, peering at the items I had bought. "Please stop," I said, trying to stand my ground. I tried to stand my ground, but my mother-in-law dismissed my objections and snatched the bag containing the travel guide. "What's all this? What do you plan to do in Florida?" "How extravagant," she exclaimed. "It's a prize I won, and I'm giving it to my parents," I explained. "Well, nobody told me about this," she shot back, just as George walked in. "I'm back. What's going on?" he asked, noticing the tension in the room. "Welcome home. Lisa wants to take a trip to Florida," my mother-in-law quickly informed him. "How thoughtless of you to give it to Lisa's parents without discussing it first." "I didn't know about the trip either," George replied, looking confused. "I was thinking of giving it to my parents," I added, trying to clarify. "How many people can go on this trip?" George asked. "It's for 2 people," I replied. "You should have told me beforehand. I would have loved to go too." "Why are you making decisions on your own?" he questioned, frustration creeping into his voice. I had considered going just the 2 of us, but this time I wanted to gift it to my parents. "I'm giving it to them," I'd explained. "You're mistaken. This time Mom and I are going, and you're staying home," George declared firmly, cutting off my protests. "No way. I won this, and I'm giving it to my parents," I insisted. "We can plan something else another time," I added, trying to reason with him. "Mom wants to go, so please try to understand," I pleaded. "What are you even saying? You just went on a trip with your mom not long ago. Why can't I use my win for a trip?" I countered. Suddenly, George dropped a bombshell. "If you don't like it, we can get a divorce." His words hit me like a punch to the gut, leaving me feeling detached from him. "Fine, do as you please," I replied, choosing to step back. My husband and mother-in-law, oblivious to my inner turmoil, seemed pleased with themselves. "You should have been more understanding from the start," they chided, ignoring their smug remarks. As I considered my next steps, I felt a swell of frustration. The following day, I sought advice from my parents, sharing the ordeal with them. My mom, who had been so excited about the trip, seemed disappointed but understood the situation. "I understand if that's how it is. We can't help it. It's better to avoid any tension between you two, so don't worry," she reassured me. Feeling guilty for letting her down, I decided to make things right. During my lunch break, I called the airline to request a change to the trip, hoping to include George and my mother-in-law instead. However, the operator explained that once a reservation is made, changes aren't allowed. The tickets were strictly for the winner, as specified in the documents they had sent me. Realizing my oversight, I told the airline operator that I would decline the prize. I decided not to tell my husband or anyone else about my choice, reasoning that if they truly wanted to go, they could purchase their own tickets. When George returned from work that evening, he was eager to discuss the trip. "Hey Lisa, did you call the airline? Did you tell them we're going to Florida with Mom?" he asked excitedly. I handed him the documents and the tickets. "Here, take a look at these. All the details are right here. It's important to read them," I urged, knowing he might not take the time to do so. As expected, he merely glanced at them before setting them aside. "Try to see this as a kind gesture for your mom," I suggested. "Sure, I'm more than happy to stay home. I can't wait to see their reaction," he replied. On the day of the trip, George seemed unusually tense and unease palpable in his demeanor. When the departure day finally arrived, he and his mother faced unexpected delays at the airport. "What's going on? Can you explain this?" he demanded, directing his confusion and frustration at me. The airline representative calmly replied, "As we've mentioned, these tickets are non-transferable, and if the winner isn't present, they become invalid. This is clearly outlined in our policy. Anyone else attempting to use them would need to pay the full fare." George and his mother had already committed to luxury hotels that stretched their budget thin, and now they encountered another hiccup at the airport counter. "I'm terribly sorry, but there seems to be an issue. Could you please try using a different payment method?" the attendant requested. "That's impossible. This card has been working perfectly fine. Why is this happening now?" George exclaimed in frustration. The attendant responded, "I'm afraid we can't diagnose the problem here. You may want to contact your card issuer for assistance." With no other option, George had to use another credit card. Later, he reached out to me, perplexed and annoyed. "Hey, what's happening? The tickets you gave us aren't usable." This left George and his mother to deal with a series of setbacks they hadn't anticipated, revealing the consequences of not paying attention to the details I had tried to point out. George's voice was tense over the phone. "Now my credit card has been declined," he explained. "Did you bother reading the fine print on the ticket? It clearly states they're invalid if the winner isn't present. As for your credit card issue, that's news to me," I retorted. "Not your card." "Well, I reported my card lost," George clarified. "I couldn't find it in my wallet, so I suspected you might have taken it. Thankfully, it hasn't been misused." "That's not amusing. You won't get away with this when we're back," George threatened. "That's entirely your doing. What you did amounts to theft," I countered. "You know what, woman? I'm divorcing you." "Get out," George declared angrily. "Fine, just as I expected you'd say." "As you wish, I'll agree to the divorce," I replied calmly. Truth be told, I had already planned to leave for my parents' house before George demanded it. I had packed my bags in advance, using the paid leave I had taken for this trip. As I left the house, I made sure to take the passbook and seal it away so he couldn't access our savings. I also informed the neighbors that we would be getting divorced. Upon reviewing our savings for potential division in the event of a divorce, I discovered that the funds had been depleted multiple times, and I had no recollection of making those withdrawals. It was clear that George was responsible. A closer look at the withdrawal dates compared to my daily blog entries revealed that the money had been taken during the period when George and my mother-in-law were on vacation. I confided in my parents about George's proposition for divorce, his unauthorized use of my credit card, and how he had tapped into our joint savings for his trip with my mother-in-law. As I recounted the situation, my parents' expressions shifted from concern to sternness. I was in disbelief over George's actions and deeply hurt. During a heartfelt conversation, my father apologized sincerely. "I'm deeply sorry. It's my fault for arranging your marriage," he said, his disappointment in George evident. With a sense of responsibility, he added, "This falls on my shoulders. Leave it to me." He reassured me of his support, knowing he held a high-ranking position at the parent company of George's employer and was sometimes involved in conducting audits, though usually another colleague handled them. Given the circumstances, my father rearranged his schedule to personally audit George's company. During this audit, he seized the opportunity to discuss the situation with George's superior at the subsidiary. They met for a meal where George's superior was visibly nervous, trying to curry favor with my father, aware of the hierarchical structure and the importance of making a good impression. Over dinner, my father broached the topic of my ongoing divorce. "In fact, my daughter is going through a divorce. It seems the main issue stems from her husband's excessive dependence on his mother. If it were just that, I might have advised her to persevere. But it appears he also misused my daughter's credit card and depleted her savings without her consent. Under such circumstances, I couldn't, in good conscience, recommend reconciliation," my father explained, shifting the conversation towards George's work performance. "By the way, your subordinate, or rather former son-in-law, I suppose, is George. How has his performance been lately? It's a busy time, but I haven't seen him much around the office." George's superior responded, clearly troubled by the revelations and the implications of the audit. The discovery of my impending divorce and George's misdeeds prompted him to consider a closer examination of George's conduct at work, suspecting it might reveal even more discrepancies. To handle the divorce proceedings efficiently, my father recommended a lawyer known for expertise in such matters. "I'll arrange for a lawyer to handle the divorce. You'll receive written confirmations soon regarding alimony and property division," I informed George, feeling a sense of relief at finally taking concrete steps. Now aware of the situation and its potential impact on the company, George's superior assured me he would not let the issue slide, hinting at appropriate actions based on what further investigation might reveal about George's conduct after his trip to Florida with his mother. When tensions remained high upon their return, George visited my parents' house where I was staying. He appeared desperate and disheveled. "Lisa, what's this certified mail about? I'm strapped for cash. I can't afford to pay any alimony. This property division, it's just a marital spat. There's no need to take it this far. I've apologized, so please come back," George pleaded. "What are you saying? Have you even read the contents of the certified mail? Your mother's constant mental abuse, not to mention depleting our savings and attempting to use my credit card without permission. There's no way we can reconcile," I countered. "Please don't say that. Since you left, it's been difficult for both Mom and me," George said, his tone softening. "Have you been receiving icy stares from the neighbors or having issues at work?" I asked, noticing his demeanor stiffen. "I suppose I hit the nail on the head," I remarked. "How did you know?" "Who knows? What do you think the reason might be? If you reflect on your actions, you might understand," I replied firmly. "I can't reconcile with you, and you'll have to face the consequences. Also, please communicate through the attorney from now on. If you persist in lingering, I'll involve the security company." George warned sternly, but when I mentioned involving security, he finally relented and left with a heavy heart. Truthfully, everything George had come pleading about was orchestrated by my father and me. Before returning to my parents' home, I spoke to our neighbors and spun a tale about being kicked out by my husband and mother-in-law after they stole the plane tickets I had won in a lottery drawing. Leveraging my past experience in drama club, my performance was remarkably convincing. Since George and his mother returned from their trip to Florida, rumors and gossip swirled around them in the neighborhood. My mother-in-law was mortified to learn from a local busybody that she was being shunned. The community's cold reception only deepened the troubles George and his mother faced, making their return anything but peaceful amid swirling rumors about me taking my daughter-in-law's winning travel tickets and casting her out. It's time for everyone to hear the complete truth, I thought. Following the uproar, my father felt compelled to start an inquiry at my husband's workplace. What came to light was unsettling. George, who was also a son-in-law to a senior department head at the main company, was found guilty of misusing his position. He often took unscheduled leaves during peak work times to travel with his mother, routinely came in late, left early, and was even caught embezzling funds from the company. Given the gravity of his misconduct, he was immediately terminated from his position. The company also took a firm stand, announcing to all staff that the era of preferential treatment for family members of management was over. Amid these professional upheavals, the personal front was equally tumultuous. With the help of a competent lawyer hired by my father, my divorce proceedings progressed smoothly, and I was soon legally single again. The financial settlement split the savings eroded by my husband's recklessness equitably, ensuring I received my rightful share. Throughout this ordeal, I kept a detailed blog documenting the emotional abuse I endured. These writings were instrumental in validating my experiences during the legal proceedings. Feeling vindicated after securing justice against my husband and his mother, I chose not to dwell on the past but to celebrate my newfound freedom. With the financial settlement from the divorce, I planned a much-needed vacation that aligned with my father's company holiday schedule. We decided on Florida, considering my mother's fondness for the destination. We meticulously planned our vacation, looking forward to days filled with exploring pristine beaches and vibrant coral reefs, indulging in retail therapy, and enjoying a rejuvenating family getaway. This trip was also a chance for me to reconnect with my parents and mend the emotional strain my divorce had placed on our relationship. It was a time to make up for the past and create new joyful memories. Though thoughts of my previous marriage were now behind me, I remained hopeful about the future, open to the possibilities of new relationships and adventures. With a heart full of excitement for the days ahead, I cherished the present moments of happiness and looked forward to whatever the future might hold.